Hello again. So, the 2020 election just happened, and I'd like to talk about a few things. It's been a really chaotic year, 2020, and I think this election tops things off kind of nicely. Although it's not quite the end of the year, this is pretty much what you could consider the climax of the year. Is this election? Of course, it was always going to be the climax of the year. The 2020 presidential election appears to be wrapping up. Joe Biden is projected to be the winner. Joe Biden actually managed to win the most votes for President of the United States than any other candidate in U.S. history. So that's pretty cool, I guess. Of course, some are saying that this election was a fraud and that Biden didn't actually get all those votes. They were fabricated in some way, shape, or form. But we have yet to see strong evidence to support this. The lawyers representing Trump have filed several lawsuits against battleground states over mail-in ballots. Unfortunately for Trump, even if the lawyers won all of these lawsuits, Biden would still have a convincing enough lead to win the presidency. So the election has not been called yet, but the general consensus is that Biden won the presidency. Now we're in this awkward spot post-election where we're just waiting to see what happens in the meantime. We haven't seen anything too crazy outside of Trump supporters yelling "Stop the count," Donald Trump himself saying "Stop the count." And I don't quite understand the purpose of stopping the count because Biden was in the lead when they were saying that. So he would still be declared the victor if they stopped counting. And speaking of counting votes, I wanted to talk about the election results. 2020 has yet to fail to surprise me. I figured this 2020 presidential election, I thought Joe Biden was going to win by a landslide. I thought he would win by a lot. He did technically win by a lot. He's won by about 4 million votes, like on the popular vote side of things. Let me check exactly the percentage he won at. So Joe Biden won 50.5% of the votes compared to Donald Trump's 47.7 votes. Looks to be about a 4.2 million vote lead on Donald Trump. I assumed it'd be a much bigger deficit for Donald Trump because of all of the controversy surrounding the president, all of the blatant planning to steal the election if it didn't go his way with the Supreme Court. What is her name? What is her name? Amy Coney Barrett. So yeah, there was a whole plan with replacing RBG with Amy Coney Barrett. In the case that the presidential election goes all the way to the Supreme Court is majority Republican leaning and would side with Trump. Trump was already planning to do this way ahead of time, and he telegraphed it. He telegraphed that he was going to do this, and I figured, well, that's enough right there. He's actively trying to find a loophole to have him win this election rather than winning through electoral college like every presidency should be won according to our system. I disagree with the electoral college, but that's neither here nor there. So I figured it would be a landslide victory for Joe Biden. But what I had not accounted for is the majority of Americans are single-issue voters to some extent. I would be considered a single-issue voter to some extent. Let me explain. So we only have two choices. We only have two choices when it comes to picking the president every election. And as I discussed in a previous video, you cannot cover everybody's political ideology with just two choices from two main political parties. So you just choose the best of what you can get. You focus on the issue that matters most to you. best example I can think of off the top of my head, the evangelical Christian is going to be pro-life. So they're going to vote against the legalization of abortion. So if one candidate is pro-abortion and the other one is not, they're going to vote for the one that is not. If someone is working as a coal miner or they're working in the oil field, they're going to vote against the environmental activists because that puts their job in danger. If someone is an environmental activist, they're going to vote for the candidate most likely to handle the environment in the best way possible. So the truth is, it did not matter what Donald Trump had done in the past. What only mattered is what he stood for and what he would do with the presidency compared to his candidate. So, as a candidate, the only thing that matters for getting votes is appealing to those single issues that voters have. Donald Trump had a very good understanding of the single issue voter mentality. That's why he won the first election, because he knew how to pander to those people with those problems. Trump hit all the notes he needed to for the Republican base, and then kind of piled on the idea that Democrats were the enemy. There's a major problem with our two-party system, and Donald Trump understands this. The problem is that each side views themselves as the solution to the other side. So Donald Trump pushed very hard on the first election to say that it's the Democrats that are the problem. I am the solution, with his talk of draining the swamp and whatnot. Like, he was supposed to be the savior of the Republicans, essentially. Now that I've covered what I believe to be the main factor for why Trump won the last election and kept this election so close, I want to get into why Trump lost this election. Donald Trump lost because he was overconfident. Way overconfident. And he believed he had this in the bag no matter what. Loss was not even a possibility in this man's mind. And if he did lose, then there was obviously foul play. And I'm not so sure why he was so confident to begin with. He lost the last election's popular vote by 3 million votes. So I started thinking about it, and it may be that Trump's confidence was simply a front to keep morale in his fan base. The reason why I say it was a front is because he wouldn't have to have a backup plan if he knew he was going to win for sure, right? I think Trump knew that he was going to lose the popular vote again and potentially lose the election because of that. So he pushed an agenda that mail-in ballots were bad because coronavirus was going to make it so that Democrats were going to primarily use mail-in ballots. So by throwing mail-in ballots into question, he could take it all the way to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court would rule in his favor because it is majority Republican, and then he would win the presidency. However, he could not keep the race close enough to bring it to Supreme Court. So how did Donald Trump lose the popular vote by an additional 1.2 million compared to last election? Well, number one, he lost some support from the people who voted for him previously. 2, he failed to convince undecided voters to vote for him. And 3, he pissed a lot of people off. Trump, from the very beginning, has consistently downplayed the pandemic, which has resulted in many civilian casualties. And thanks to Bob Woodward's tapes, we know that Trump knew from the very beginning that the virus was dangerous, and he continued to downplay the virus despite that. You're a Trump supporter all the way up until the point where his views and ideologies and his information that he gave you ends up killing a parent or a brother or a son. Now, the reason why I use the coronavirus as my main example here is because the majority of people who thought the coronavirus was a hoax or not a big deal were Republican, and the majority of those Republicans were Trump supporters. So the reason why he could not win over undecided voters during the presidential debates and his own town hall and his rallies is because of his failure to address the current crises. Anyway, He failed to address the crisis plural. He failed to address the crisis plural in the country. COVID-19, the eviction crisis, the police brutality protests, replacing Obamacare. Biden simply did a better job approaching these topics. And whether you agree or disagree with that statement, the polls show that Biden won over undecided voters every time when compared to Trump. This last one is a little complicated because Trump has done so much that I couldn't fit it all into one section. One good example I can think of off the top of my head is the military. The military is 60% conservative, but Donald Trump disrespected the military several times. You know, he called POWs losers. He said, what did he say? I think he said something along the lines of, I respect men who weren't captured. Something along those lines. I don't think he ever apologized for that either. I might have to fact check that one. He disrespected beloved Republican politician John McCain several times. His administration has passed anti-Muslim laws preventing them from entering the country on the basis that they are Muslim. His administration has attempted to illegalize gay marriage. Donald Trump has told colored politicians to go back to their country when they were born in the U.S. It's such a huge list. Like, I would actually have to go back and do tons and tons of research to name all of the times he's spited someone or made someone upset because of his actions. I could go on and on about the disrespect Trump has shown to so many people. His own ex-White House staff all talking about how terrible of a person he is. Maybe I would believe it was voter fraud if it wasn't blatantly obvious that the majority of America straight up doesn't like the guy. This section is finished. I don't have a good way to segue into the next section. I just have a question. Why did almost 72 million people vote for Trump? This has to be one of the easiest political decisions to make in human history, and almost 72 million people got it wrong. Trump should never have been president, but because of a temporary system that the founding fathers put in place because they couldn't think of an alternative, Trump was elected. And so we had to give him a chance, whether we liked it or not. And we gave him a chance, and it did not work out at all. I just don't understand. How much wrong can one man do before the voters decide to put their party alliance to the side to vote against him? He should have lost your vote when he lied to the American people about how dangerous COVID-19 was. He should have lost your vote when he refused to take responsibility for the hundreds of thousands of lives that were claimed by COVID-19. He should have lost your vote when he sold our PPE to China. And then he blamed Obama for the national shortage of PPE. He should have lost your vote when he disbanded the pandemic response team before the outbreak. He should have lost your vote when he refused to wear a mask in public and mocked those who did wear masks. He should have lost your vote when he knew that he could have potentially been sick with COVID and then continued to attend multiple public events. He should have lost your vote when he caused an outbreak at the White House, which got multiple important people sick, including the guy with the nuclear football. He should have lost your vote when his information contradicted his administration's information. He should have lost your vote when he said, "It is what it is," in response to the COVID-19 deaths. He should have lost your vote when he said climate change was a Chinese hoax. He should have lost your vote when he withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord. He should have lost your vote when illegal immigrants were dying in ICE custody because of malnutrition. He should have lost your vote when he showed no sympathy for the hundreds of kids that ICE lost at the border. He should have lost your vote when he ridiculed the governor of Michigan after a foiled kidnapping attempt. That's probably why he lost Michigan. He should have lost your vote when he struggled to denounce white supremacy. And I understand that he did after the fact, but first impressions mean everything. He should have lost your vote when he referred to African nations as shitholes. He should have lost your vote when he made fun of the disabled. He should have lost your vote when he retweeted a conspiracy theory about Joe Biden from a satirical news source. He should have lost your vote when he put us through a World War III scare in January. And on that note, I think I'm just going to stop it there. Something I realized while making that little segment is that there are so many controversies revolving around Trump that I could not cover all of them in a single segment without making it 20 minutes long. It kind of requires its own video. But what I will do is I will talk about what I think is most important, foreign relations. And from what I can tell, Donald Trump has done pretty badly with foreign relations compared to the other presidents. He's hurt our relationship with our allies and what our nation considers our enemies. And the thing about foreign relations is that the reason why I believe that they are the most important is because if you mess them up badly enough, then that would result in nuclear warfare, which would be the end of civilization as we know it, potentially even the end of humanity. And I feel we shouldn't have this smoking gun that's been persistently threatening nuclear warfare against nations. Donald Trump has antagonized the Democratic People's Republic of Korea several times. And the thing about that is, I understand that North Korea has a huge hatred for America, but it's not entirely unjustified. The United States bombed North Korea extensively from years 1950 to 1953. The leaders understand North Korea's history very well, so I would not antagonize the leader of North Korea as if he would not retaliate, even if it did mean the death of all of his people. Because very much like Donald Trump, Kim Jong-un is a bit of a smoking gun and has proven to have working intercontinental ballistic missiles, so I wouldn't want to frustrate him. But Donald Trump insists on playing nuclear warfare chicken with the guy, so I just don't think he would be... I just feel as if he puts all of our lives at risk whenever he runs on Twitter and insults the leader like that. Yeah, so with that in mind, I'd like to move on and talk about the Biden-Harris administration and what I think we can expect from them in the future. I think it'll be alright. It's not the revolutionary change that we need by any stretch of the imagination. It's more so just more of the same of what we can expect from a Democratic president. So yeah, I like Biden. Biden did good things as Obama's vice president. But the change that he's going to be able to implement is going to be so marginal that I don't think it's going to be very relevant. When you consider that, hold on, let me find the UN report. 1970 and 2019, 79% of disasters. That's a lot of disasters. Oh, there's a collection of climate reports. That's cool. I believe the 2019 report said something about 2030 being... So, climate change is rearing its ugly head. It gets closer and closer to us by the day. And unfortunately, I don't think the Biden-Harris administration is going to give us that push that we need towards global cooperation in stopping climate change. And unfortunately, when all we get is marginal change with every presidential term, our nation just moves way too slow for a crisis that is coming up on us, that is basically sprinting at us full force, like at full speed. And when you consider that uh, Democrats actually lost seats in the House, they're not going to get a whole lot done whenever, let's see, I believe the Senate and, yeah, so the Supreme Court is majority Republican. The Senate is majority of Republican. Is the House of Representatives majority of Republican? Let me check that. Okay, House of Representatives is majority Democrat, but our current government is pretty divided, so we're going to be fighting with each other to get anything done like we have in the past. So that's what I'm talking about when I say marginal effort. It doesn't matter. Even if Biden were to want to say, hey, let's abolish all police, which he's not going to do. He's actually going to give more funding to the police if he can. He wouldn't be able to do it because the Republicans would fight him every step of the way. So what we're going to get is very minimal change. Like, everything's going to remain roughly the same. He's going to get a handle on the coronavirus. He's not going to do some ridiculous 6-month lockdown. I can expect to see non-essential businesses close down again for a little bit. We'll probably see mandates for masks, because certain masks are ineffective. So we're going to see states try to push to make those types of masks illegal to wear in public. So we'll just be seeing more efforts to reduce the spread of coronavirus so that we can eventually return to normal life somewhere in the middle of mid-2021, if I had to guess on my own knowledge. Let's see what else. I think the police brutality situation, we're not going to be able to see the major change that our police have needed since the police were a thing, essentially. It'll probably be some more incremental change, but I don't think the Black Lives Matter and the anti-fascist protests are necessarily going to stop, even if we do see some incremental change. They're not interested in incremental change anymore. They want to see major change. So it's likely that we're going to see protesters clash with police from here on out. Probably less so, but we're going to still see some of it. Housing crisis, I have no idea what's going to happen with that. I think it'll get a little better, but we're going to see some tough times for sure. I need to do some more research on that one for sure. So yeah, overall, not a whole lot's going to change. One big thing that I don't understand is how people are celebrating Biden's presidency. I want to make something clear. I take no joy in seeing President Trump leave the presidency. The damage that he's inflicted is already done. But what I don't understand is why people are like celebrating so hard for the Biden-Harris administration as if we did not just choose the best of a bad situation, like as if there was any real choice in the matter. It was vote for someone who was clearly incompetent to be president, or vote for someone who is competent enough to run the presidency. We're not going to get what we want out of the Biden-Harris administration. We're still the same country in the eyes of foreigners. We're still the country that actively pillages less developed countries for their resources. Yeah, so the Biden administration is not going to change what the United States is at its core. And I know what some of you are thinking. Oh, but Isaiah, we now have a woman as vice president. That's great. While we're celebrating, the thousands of bombs we drop on developing countries every year? Why don't we paint them rainbow? That way, whenever we kill a country's people, steal their resources, and destabilize their government, they know it's coming from a place of equality. I know that sounds pessimistic, but you don't say, boy, I'm sure glad I dodged that bullet, when you're still in the middle of the crossfire. Oh yeah, I guess I should talk about Kamala Harris, since it's likely that Biden could die before his term is up. And truth be told, I don't know a lot about Kamala, actually. I know I like her better than Pence, but that's besides the point. But yeah, we'll do more research into her career in the future. From what I can tell, she seems pretty solid. I wasn't super confident in her as a presidential figure. just from first impressions, seeing her interviews with 60 Minutes and all that stuff. So yes, I will be doing more research into her in the future and making videos and updates about her and Biden in this administration. Yeah, a woman vice president is a big step, but I don't think it's a big enough step. Is the thing. We have like less than 2 decades to get our climate situation under control. Some say it's less than a decade and a half, and so that leaves us with like potentially 3 to 4 terms to get this under control. And with how slow our government is at doing anything, I just don't have high hopes for the future at the moment. We need to get the people behind. This is actually more for the future type stuff that I'm talking about, so I'll stop it here. The truth is, the truth is, I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. I have access to the same resources as everyone else does. I'm not qualified. My highest level of education is high school. I've only started studying politics very recently. What else? I'm not some omniscient I'm not some omniscient god or anything. I'm just some guy in a walk-in closet making videos. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make here. I feel like everyone should be getting involved in politics, everyone who can get involved, because even if things may turn out okay in the future, it'll get there a lot faster if we have as many people, informing themselves and taking action. As many people informing themselves as taking action as possible. Because the fact of the matter is, we are very privileged. We have crazy amounts of privilege compared to other people in the world. And there are hundreds of millions of people suffering every day. And whatever we can do to get to a point in humanity's timeline where there are less people suffering, we should do. It is our responsibility as privileged human beings in this time. Yeah, that's basically all I have to say about the future. And personally, for me, I'm going to be doing a bunch of research on the U.S. government and how it works. That way, when the next election rolls around, I'll be much better informed and be able to make much better decisions on my voting choices. So yeah, if there's anything to take away from this 30-minute rant about the 2020 election, it's that I don't believe enough people are informed. I don't believe enough people are taking action. There is, in this time period where it feels as though things get worse every day, there is no, I don't want to be in politics. Politics are stressful. Obviously, politics is stressful. But despite that, I think it'll be a lot less stressful if more of us are involved. More involved than just looking at things on the surface level. Like, my opinions, my political opinions and ideology, it evolves by the day as I accumulate more knowledge on topics. At the beginning of my project on police brutality, I was more so on the side that the police were all bad, But as I continued my research, I realized that it can be scary to be a police officer, and the truth is, it's the system that is bad, not the individual police officers. You know, I came to learn that. There would be no bad cops if there was not a system in place to let bad cops do their thing, essentially, and that's where my position stands, and that was an evolution that took place over the course of about 3 weeks, I believe, of doing research on the police and on the police brutality protests. What I'm trying to say is, everyone needs to educate themselves. Everyone needs to get informed and get involved, because the world needs as much help. The world needs as much help as it can possibly get. So yeah, that's what I've got. So yeah, end statement. Those of you who lost the election, get over it. Those of you who won the election, stop celebrating. We all need to come together to solve these issues. Change does not start with the president. It starts with the individual.